Hey third grade, today we're going to be starting making our coil vases. We can use this sheet as inspiration to give us some ideas on different types of coils. We are going to be using air dry clay. So this clay does not need to go in the kiln. It will be dried after we let it sit for a week. We're going to need some water to attach our clay and a paintbrush to help use the water. And air dry clay means that if we leave it out, the air will dry it. So we need to keep any of the clay that we're not using in a bag so that it does not dry out. So to get started, we're going to grab one piece of clay, a little smaller than a golf ball. That way we can focus on using that piece and only making one coil at a time so it doesn't dry. So we're going to roll a coil up and down, back and forth, all the way to the tips of our fingers and down to the palm. Make sure that your coil is no smaller than your pinky. If it's smaller or thinner than your pinky, it will dry out and break, but we don't want it any thicker than our first front pointer finger. Going to roll our first coil up into a nice tight cinnamon roll type form, and we're going to use this for the base of our sculpture, the base of our coil vase. As soon as you get done with one coil, we're going to grab some more clay and go ahead and roll another coil and keep adding the coils until they get all the way to the outside of the edge of our circle, and then our base is finished. Instead of just pushing and giving our clay a snug hug to get our coils to sit and rest next and on top of each other, we need to make sure we're using our paintbrush to apply a little bit of water to the area before we stick the coil on. The water acts as an adhesive or a glue, and it locks the clay together, so when we're giving it a snug hug, it will sit more strongly together. Now that the base is done, I want to start adding coils to make the walls of my vase. I'm going to be making walls by putting coils on the very outside edge and then stacking them upwards so that the vase is hollow and it has walls so it can hold objects or items. We want to make sure we're adding a little bit of water before we're sticking the coils on and then giving them a snug hug, but we don't want to use too much water. Make sure that it's just a little bit with your paintbrush and then press firmly to attach your coils. Too much water will make it mushy and will make it fall all the way apart. Notice how I've been using the sheet of paper where I started my coils to rotate and turn my sculpture around so I can make sure that it looks good from all of the sides, not just one side. If you want to use straight coils the entire time for your vase, that's perfectly fine. That's your artistic choice. If you want to try a variety of coils to give your vase a different look, then that is your artistic choice. Please take your time on those coils just the same as the straight coils, and make sure that you're still going to use water to attach any type of coil that you add to your vase. Remember, it's not just the water that's necessary to attach your coil. You need to nicely push and give that coil a little snug hug so both of the coils are joined together, whichever ones that you're wanting to stay on your vase. Remember to look at your sculpture from all sides, not just the front, not just the side that's facing you. And I can see that some of my little spirals are getting a little wrinkly and also cracking. So I'm going to add just a tiny bit of water to smooth out those cracks and then make some adjustments to make sure that those coils are snug into place. As you're working, you may notice that there are some gaps in between your coil shapes or your thin straight coils. We can fix those gaps by patching or almost plugging up the gap with a small piece of clay. So when you find a gap, you can take a small, tiny piece of clay and you can roll it into a small sphere. When you have that sphere made, you're going to go back to that hole that you found and gently press it up against or into the hole, not so it squishes out, but just so it fills it. And then you have fixed the hole in your vase. All right, third grade, we've went over a lot. I know we've been practicing, so let's get to it and let's make some coil vases.